Bless the Lord. I'm Vandy Colter. I'm excited because we have some information, some content for you that is going to answer some questions as to what you've been through for the last year and what you should expect in this year. We're excited because God is going to reveal to you a reason for you to give him some praise. You're probably going to shout from your couch. You're probably going to shout from your bedroom. And it's a wonderful thing because here's what I want you to know. You can qualify whether or not this broadcast is for you based on this information. If 2017 was a difficult year, if 2017 was an unusual year, a year of unusual challenges, unusual stress, unusual challenges, unusual difficulties, where when you look at it, at what you've been through, you almost say to yourself, wow, how did I really make it? I didn't even realize that I would go through the unexpected, unusual stresses and challenges and trials and tribulations. Well, if that is your testimony, then I'm excited because God is getting ready to give you some information, some revelation that's going to inspire you to look for God in 18 like you've never looked for him before. I'm actually trying to speak to your faith right now. I'm inspiring your spirit, but I want to speak to your faith. I want to shift your expectation to a place that you are understanding that whatever you've been through was not for nothing. 17 itself represented victory. However, it was not just a victory. It was the victory that is associated to the battles and the fights that we face. So if you're watching this, that means you're still alive. That means God is not finished yet. That means you have overcome. You are an overcomer. So 17 is significant. Think about it like this. 17 in the Bible, the Hebrew day on the 17th is when Christ actually rose from the grave. So the victory was not absent the crucifixion. The victory was not absent the challenge, the fight, the afflictions, the betrayals, the disappointments, the hurt, the embarrassment, it almost looked as if God had forsaken Jesus. And if you've been through enough in 17, you may have felt like, boy, it feels like, God, when are you going to catch me? This is like feeling a little forsaken, and your prayers were probably losing some of that power. And I'm here to put that power back into your prayer, to put that power back into your expectation. So I want you to get excited because God is going to share some things today with you. So we're going to just get right to it, if that's okay. The first thing I have to do to lay the foundation before we get to some scripture is I want you to understand what 18 is. 18 is the number biblically for maturation, for maturity. It is the number for authority. It is the number for appointment, which means that in this year, there are some things that those trials had to perfect in your faith to position you to be mature enough for God to do something significant that only he will get the glory for. And it is your mature response to all the trials you had that I'm celebrating right now, because it is what you've been through that did not break you, but it was what you've been through that strengthened your faith, because you did not walk away from the Lord despite the trials. You did not throw in the towel. You did not change your path. You decided, I'll lean on the Lord, not my own understanding. So to you, you are now in the winner's circle. And 18 is that number where God can celebrate your victory. So here's what that maturation looks like. It's mature faith. The 18 symbolism is in our maturation, in our faith being mature enough that we can recognize that we've been tested, that we can recognize our faith has been tried, that we can recognize that in essence, our faith took a licking, but it keeps on ticking. So I want you to recognize that God is looking for faith to be manifested by his miracles this year that has been, listen close, seasoned with seasons. In other words, your faith has been seasoned with seasons, situations, things that you've been through, things that you have encountered have seasoned your faith in such a way that now you actually have a testimony. And when God delivers you completely this year into the manifestation, you'll be able to turn and tell everyone, now I know that I know that I know. I know for a fact God has never forsaken me or turned his back. So there's some dominion, some authority, some things you're going to lay hold to this year that you need to receive in this prophetic impartation, that you need to receive and recognize that, you know what, I recognize that God is going to give me some authority. In other words, I'm going to be the head and not the tail, above only and not beneath. In 17, it didn't feel like it, but in 18, you're going to realize it. Okay? So watch this. That dominion, that authority is going to reflect itself in natural ways. So this year, you're going to have dominion over debt in ways that some of your debt had you buried under it. Now, I'm not telling you that everybody's going to be debt free, but how many of you know that you can have debt working for you versus working against you? So this dominion and authority does not look like, your mortgage is going to be paid in full, or you'll have a rent-free lifestyle. But what I'm going to do is help you understand what I mean, so that the integrity of the prophetic word I'm going to give you, you can have it wrapped around your neck. You can bind it about your neck. So here's this. Dominion, it does not mean that you'll be debt-free, the authority I'm speaking about. But how many of you know that there is debt that you can have working for you, just as there's debt that's working against you? So having authority over your debt means that everything is managed and under control versus you trying to rob Peter to pay Paul and going through all the challenges. So this is the year that God literally begins to shift you, because you have stayed the course, to a place where you are above, that you are indeed the head, that you are strengthened, and others are going to see the appointment that God has for you, because it also means appointment, not just you being appointed to elevation. For some of you, this will be a year of promotion, a year of elevation, a year that your spiritual life shifts, a year that your natural life shifts. But for others of you, 18 is the year that God has that specific set time, that due season. There's a season due you. You were wondering, God, he has you on his calendar. And 18 is a part of that prophetic window that God will provide the date. In other words, there's a date in this year for you. And the thing about an appointment, to get whatever is in that connection, all I have to do is show up. So all you're going to do is literally show up. You won't even know you're showing up for it. And this year, God's going to do something, because your faith has been tried and tested, because you've already revealed that you are faithful and full of faith. God says that now I have a set time. Now, had you not have passed your tests and trials in 17, then this appointment would not be available to you. But to those of you who have endured, to those of you who have not grown weary in well-doing, I stopped by to tell you that this year God has something that is going to bless you so big that it will force you to give him more glory. So I want to share some things with you. I want to make sure you understand the significance biblically of the number 18 in the Bible, which is why one aspect of 18 constitutes the definition bondage. Not the bondage you're going into, but the bondage you're coming out of. So Israel, for 18 years, was in bondage by two kings. And as a result, Israel experienced deliverance where God used Jephthah, whose name means he will open. In other words, one of the sources that God had used to shift Israel, his people, from bondage to deliverance, from struggle to favor, from strife to peace, was Jephthah, which means he will open. In other words, God's going to open a door for you this year. A door, a great effectual door. A door that when you walk through this door, everything that had you held back or bound over the years previous shall be a distant memory. Somebody should have said, I receive right there. And he also used Jephthah and he used Samson. Samson, His name means of the sun or light. So we know that part of this deliverance is going to be reflected from the light that you have in you that you refuse to let dim when you were going through. The deeper revelation about Samson's name is it also means his service, which means everything that you didn't quit is going to be what God will use to shift you, and that has proven your faith through the trial. So all of the sacrifice you've made in his name has not been in vain. That this year God's getting ready to reveal to you how great, how wonderful it is for you to stay the course, because you did not faint, because you kept doing what you were supposed to do. So I want to share with you some things. So I want to take you directly into some specific scriptures. So we're going to examine this 18 truth in Luke, and we're going to look at chapter 13, verse 10 is where we'll start. Verse 10 reads, "And he was teaching," meaning Jesus, "in one of the synagogues on the Sabbath." So before we go any further, let's look at how God's getting ready to do what he's going to do. First of all, the evidence of this conversation we're having is proof that God has a plan for your life, because faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. So Jesus is about to do a miracle within the confines of this number 18, and it starts off with a word being taught. So somebody had to come listening, somebody had to come seeking the word, Jesus Christ, in order to reposition themselves after years of things oppressing them, after years of things afflicting them. I want to let you know that even your marriage, even the moments you have on the job, even the career path, even the natural simple things that you feel, boy, I wish it was looking different. I wish I would have done something different. That this is what the teaching of the word will do. It will reposition you spiritually so that everything naturally begins to shift. So look at how this goes. In verse 11, here's what I was trying to tell you in the appointment, meaning all you do is show up. The text says, "And behold." In other words, it was unexpected. It was surprise. It was not planned. It was not, this is something that I know is going to happen on Tuesday. It was, I went into Tuesday, and behold. You should have still shouted, "I received." Some of you should already be just trying to get some folk to sit with you, say, listen, this is for all of us. We got to get this together. It says, "And behold, there was a woman which had a spirit of infirmity," look at that, 18 years. 18 years in bondage, 18 years with a condition, 18 years with dynamics that limited her from living free. And she was bowed together. One version of the text says she was doubled over. In other words, she had twice as many problems. She was doubled. Can I tell you, God's going to give you double for your trouble? That this doubled over. She was in a position where she didn't need 100-fold. She needed a double blessing. She needed a double turnaround. And it says she could in no wise lift up herself. Which means if God doesn't do it for you, you or nobody else will be able to do it. Your excitement should come from a faith place, because your faith, it's according to your faith, be it unto you. So if you can receive this word, you immediately position yourself to be a beneficiary of this word. Christ, every miracle that he did, it required the person who was going to receive it to be the recipient and beneficiary to recognize, yes, I am ready. Yes, even if they doubted at first, they come to a conclusion, yes. Whether it's someone crying out, "Have mercy, son of David," somebody who needs it, or whether somebody who's like the man by the pool, and he says, "Wilt thou be made whole?" And the man says, "I would, but I don't have somebody to help me out. I'm looking for people." And Jesus was saying, you're looking for the wrong thing. This is going to come from you recognizing you cannot do this next thing yourself, which is why only God is going to get the glory. As a matter of fact, I'll have a little practical conversation with you. Think about it like this. If you could have done it, you would have did it already. So you should be saying to yourself, for what I need, it's going to take the Lord. So here's how it works. She couldn't lift herself up. Verse 12, Jesus saw her. It was when he saw you being faithful, praying when it didn't look like things were going your way. The struggles, the challenges, the disappointments, those private moments where privately you were lamenting before God. God, how long? Why? I don't understand. Why? What is it going to take? It was in him seeing you go through and still keep your praise. Seeing you go through and still lean on him. He then calls to her. It says, he called to her and said. Okay. Now, here's where it's prophetic. That word said literally translates in the Greek to say by word or by writing. So in other words, when Jesus said it to her then, he knew it would be written down for us now. So he says, woman, thou art loosed from thine infirmity. He says, you are loosed from the situation that has caused you so much pain this year. It took 18 years for her to find herself receiving a word that shifted her circumstances and gave her double, because she had it had to make up 2 times, a double difference. In other words, some of what she'd been through was not all satanic. It was some spiritual attacks, but it now was manifesting in natural ways. So while the devil may have authored some of the challenges and trials for some of you, for others, your choices and your decisions and your method of handling things have put you where you are. And now this woman, God says, this is powerful, that you are loosed from everything that was wrong with you. And this word loosed, it means to pardon. It means to divorce. It means to let go. And it means to release. I'm going to say it again. It means to pardon, which means that the only person who requires a pardon was guilty. Guilty of doing something to need the pardon. So this is the part where I want to speak to those of you who have made mistakes. And God is saying it's time for you to forgive yourself, because he forgave you before you did it. So you're going to have to recognize that every mistake that you've made does not negate the fact that God's going to do something miraculous for you this year. That every mistake you've made is not going to hinder the appointment that God is going to do, because you had the faith to stay the course. I never want you to think perfection is a prerequisite for a miracle, because therefore there would never be a miracle. As a matter of fact, it's more of the opposite. Think about everyone who experienced a miracle. It was those who were grossly imperfect in different areas of their life, whether it's a withered hand, whether it's this woman who has this infirmity. So he says, you're pardoned. He who the Son sets free is free indeed. He who receives this word, there is therefore now no condemnation to them who walk after the Spirit and not the flesh. All you need to do is realize that by walking with the Lord, every mistake, everything you actually did can become your testimony. It does not no longer become embarrassment, because there is therefore now no condemnation to them which are in Christ Jesus, who walk not after the flesh, but after the Spirit. So as long as I'm following God, you can talk all you want about what I've done in the past. And I can come next to you and say, yep, that was me. I did do those things. But God, who was rich in mercy. So you can now walk freely, and you can hold your head up with anticipation that God is getting ready to still bless me in 18. There's an appointment. There's a day of my destiny. For some, it may be January. For others, it may be in February. For others, it could be in December. But if you walk with an expectation, the just shall live by faith. If you walk with an expectation and you're looking for God and you expect God, he's a rewarder of them who diligently seek him. So it says, you're loosed. Somebody say, I'm loosed. You're loosed. Pardoned. We're clear. But check this out. Loosed also means divorced. Whatever you was in covenant with before you stepped into this year, that you was feeling embarrassed about, because sometimes we can put people in front of God. Sometimes we can put our jobs in front of God. Whatever it was that you were doing, God says, this year I've divorced you from what was causing you the pain. There are some relationships that some of you have had that you have that you are clear are toxic. That you're clear they're causing you pain. That you're clear it's time for you to separate yourself, to come out from some people. Because they'll never be able to help you into your destiny. But they will be very effective at holding you down. God says divorce, that this year you are separated. You're no longer tied. What tied you all together, you're going to discover this year is not there. You know, you used to have gossip in common, or you used to have the same proclivities together. God says this year there's going to be a separation where those things don't even seem to be the tie that binds you anymore. And remember, it also means to let go. So some of you are dealing with infirmities because you refuse to forgive some people who have hurt you. The only reason that you have been inwardly finding yourself becoming bitter, finding yourself becoming angry, finding yourself becoming separated from those who love you, is because you have not let go of some things. And God says this year he's giving you a word that this year you're going to let it go. That by you letting it go, you're going to feel the power of God. You're going to be restored in such a way that you're going to feel his grace and his goodness in your life. And lastly, it says to release. In other words, what the things you've been holding on to this year, he says, if you release it, if you sow it, if you give it, if you stop holding back, if you decide I'll give my all to God, if I release what I'm holding on to, God says that all the pain, all the infirmity, all the issues that you've been dealing with, you're going to experience a miracle, which is just a move of God. That you're going to experience God in an area of your life. And for some, I've got news for you. If you've been walking with bitterness and inward crookedness for years, and 18, you discover in the year 18, you discover that you're now free. Oh my God, that's worth gold. That's worth $1 million. Peace that comes from the liberty that comes from being free. Free from what people said about you. Free from past mistakes. The ability to let go. The ability to separate yourself from the things that were hurting you and toxic for you. I'm excited because that is just a glimpse of what 2018 is on God's calendar for your life. And all you have to do is receive it. The Bible says that Jesus laid hands on this woman and immediately she was made straight and glorified God. There's some glory on the other side of the story you've had to endure, the story you've had to walk through, the pages of life you've had to write. There's some glory that God says that is going to show up suddenly. It says immediately. It said, behold, unexpected. It says you should kind of get yourself ready. As a matter of fact, you may want to begin to start praising God right from your bedroom, right from your living room, right from your computer at work, wherever you are. Let them think you're crazy. But your faith has to participate in this. Your faith has to receive what's going on. And by your own admission, by your own faith, according to your own belief in God, Jesus Christ, the Son of God, that you shall experience this year 18 some power, some deliverance, some victory, the reward. Come on, give God some praise for that. That's something that you can say, Lord, thank you. This was not a random opportunity for God to speak to you. This impartation is part of his plan for you to gain some content that's going to have to carry you through some more seasons. And this miracle he's going to do is not the end, it's the beginning. The best is still yet to come, even after the manifestation from what had you in bondage throughout years, culminating and ending at 17. The minute you entered into 2018, you have planted yourself in a new season. Not just because we call it a new year, but in God's spiritual calendar, he has divinely set aside your blessing this year.